Hi guys, I'm just gonna turn up my volume here. So today we're gonna talk to one of our amazing artists, Shilo Ratner. So I'm just gonna wait for her to pop in and then I'm gonna get her set up so that we can talk to her. Let me just see if I can. There we go. I see her here. And then we'll get going and we'll talk to her about her creative process. And I'm really excited to talk to her. Hi, Shilo, there you are.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I do. I will say to start off, I am in my home office and I do have someone mowing their lawn behind me. So if at any point it gets loud, just give me a shout so that I know because I can hear it. So how are you today? Let's just start off that way.
Good.
Awesome.
Had my coffee.
Nice.
So I'm awake.
Perfect. Happy Thursday. We're winding down the week. So yeah, I just want to do a quick intro. So I'm Christine. I'm with Sorel. Like I said, I'm in my home office, which is a little noisy today. And we're talking to Shilo Ratner. You can see some of her paintings in the background there, which are beautiful. They're abstract, geometric. So I guess I'll just get started. So I wanted to start just really simply, where are you from originally? Where are you working now? Just so we get a little sense of context in your background.
Yeah, well, I'm originally from Massachusetts, but I lived in San Francisco for 15 years, and I still feel like a Californian living here in New Haven County. So I think I brought a little bit of the West Coast to the East Coast now. So,
okay. Good. We need that little more of that soothing vibe, baby. That's good. That's good. Yeah. So how did you get started as an artist?
Well, aren't we all artists in some form or fashion? But I have been doing art since, before high school, when I was a child. And then in high school, I really got into the arts. I did videography. We had that part of my high school, and photography, and I tried everything. And then I just continued with it with my education. So I got my BA and then my MFA from the Academy of Art University.
Oh, nice. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And has your style changed over the years, do you think, or is it relatively consistent?
Oh, no. We all evolve as humans, and I feel like as an artist, I have as well. I started off as a commissioned portrait artist, and that was all word of mouth. And
Wow.
My first one, I wasn't even painting. I just took the commission on the fly. I was at a party. I'm like, sure, I'll do it. And I was a sculptor. And so,
Wow.
and then I just taught myself how to paint. And so from there, I decided to go to graduate school because I thought there was something more to it. And I was a figurative artist and did Bay Area figurative style, if anyone's familiar with that, like Diebenkorn-esque.
Can you explain for people who may not be familiar? Just what is that?
Is like sort of representational, but not representational figurative art that really is very expressive in form. And it's very specific to a particular area, Bay Area. And so because I lived there, I was very much exposed to it. So I started doing that style of painting.
Yeah.
And then I obviously switched, changed.
Right.
I was getting ready for a show in Greenwich, and I was doing all these oil paintings, and I had a dream about a geometric art piece that I was having a show in New York for. And in my dream, I argued with myself. I was like, this isn't my work, but this is nice. And then I woke up and that image just kept showing itself to me. And then I did it. I decided I had one canvas left and I decided to paint it. And so the rest is history.
That's really incredible that you just
my genre.
and such a massive, it's not sort of like, you were saying like artists tend to grow and they evolve, and you really made this like total shift that's
I was a little nervous to do it because I had collectors and shows, but I was like, this is my life. So I'm just going to go for it. And so I did.
Cool. And how long have you been doing the abstract geometric? Like when did that shift take place?
The shift took place about maybe 6 years ago. It was just a big shift with my work. And so it's been great. It's been a great shift for me ever since.
Nice. That's amazing. Yeah. Very cool. So, and it sounds like you kind of just, you know, picked this up and went with it, but I think that that's a good lead in to talk about your creative process when you're creating just an individual painting, or if it's a series. How do you really get from start to finish? You know, are you sketching first? What goes into it?
Yeah, well, my process really doesn't start when I'm actually in the studio. It starts beforehand. I do a form of meditation called japa, which is sound repetition, and I've been doing it for many, many years. And so before I come into my space, I go into like an intense meditation session, and then I come in and I just start painting. And this one behind me that's in process, I don't know if anyone can see that.
Yeah.
This
Love that.
Was very unintentional. I did the red line, and then it just started kind of taking form and doing what it wanted to do, and I was just sort of just going with it. So this was my session yesterday, and it just sort of, obviously it became more of a mountainscape, you know, for now. But I just allow that process to take place. I used to question it more and be like, no, this is what, and I used to try to force what I wanted to happen. But when I started just allowing what's going to happen, that's when the pieces really start to unfold. So it's really a process of letting go.
Right. Which is so interesting, because you look at these pieces and you're like, all of these straight lines, you must be so, you know, strategic and have so much laid out. I think of them as architectural in many ways. And you've somehow married this like super organic, intuitive process with what I would expect would be the total opposite. And so I have to ask you, all of those straight lines, how do you get them? Are you freehanding that? Are you using tape? What are you doing? Because it's incredible.
Pretty much anything that will get the job, I do. I use cardboard and wood and tape, and I freehand. And I use a lot of like painting rags to fix my lines. So when I freehand for something that has the, I decided like if it's going across like these 5-foot canvases, about more than halfway mark, if I'm freehanding, my arm just starts to go down. So I know that like if I'm going a very like large distance, like 6 foot, 5 foot, I need to use something to help me with that line, because I can't get, for some reason, my arm, gravity takes hold.
Sure.
And it just starts going down.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Now, I feel like in this other one behind you, you can kind of see, and in several of your paintings, you have layers, where you can actually see like a sort of semi-transparent line where you're sort of allowing some of the underlayer to show, you know, the shape or whatever to show through.
Yeah.
So is that all, you know, do you have a preferred way? I mean, do you say, no, on those I have to use tape, or like, can you not use tape because you've got paint underneath it, or how do you sort of figure out the time based on that?
The timing, well, I try to let my layers dry, and because I'm an oil paint background, I am pretty strict about that.
Yeah.
I've learned from over the years of process of what not to do. So oftentimes I'm like, I'll do a layer, and I work on several pieces at the same time. So I'm not standing there waiting for the paint to dry. I'll move on to the next piece. But I know that like each layer, it takes time. So I try not to rush the process.
Right.
I think when I have a show or something and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to get these works done. Everything has to be ready to ship. That's when I feel myself, that tension. And I'm like, no, take a deep breath. You'll get it all done. Just follow your process, because when you try to rush, things just kind of don't work out. So, I think it's a process of just like making sure I take a step back and allowing each layer to dry.
Right. Now, I should know this. Are these ones oil too?
No, these ones are acrylic. These ones
You
are
change it to
acrylic.
acrylic. Okay, so you're saying with an oil background, you're always cognizant of
Yes,
lighting.
yes,
But then they
I
dry
do
a lot
switch.
quicker with an acrylic.
They
Yeah.
do,
So
but I still do switch. I like it depends on like what I'm feeling. If I decide to go to oil, I have a whole, you know, different brush set for that. There's a lot more cleanup, which is one of the things I just don't like to do. I mean, who does?
right. Yeah.
But you know, so it's a process when I'm painting with oil.
Right. That makes sense. Now, a lot of these, and it's funny, you've got sort of two, looks like exact examples of what I'm about to ask you. But so some of your paintings, certainly the ones we carry at Sorel, you've got some of them that have really recognizable features. Maybe it's a sun, or, you know, you can clearly see a horizon line, and you can equate that to sort of an abstracted landscape. Some of them, at least to me, look very purely abstract. So my question is, and you've got, I think, two perfect examples behind you, is that how do you, are you, even with those abstract ones that are purely abstract seemingly, are you using a scene, an image or anything, or is this just, you come in and it's imagined, and some of them end up being like a landscape and some of them don't?
You know, because I make sure meditation is really part of my process when I come in, like, you know, it really all stems from that. It stems from me just like clearing my mind to come in here and to create. And so this piece over here that's in process, it just started with a red line. I don't often sketch. I have a sketchbook that I do when I'm like at a cafe and I like wear my glasses and I draw people so they can't tell I'm looking at them. But
I love that.
You know,
next time I see someone in a cafe wearing glasses and sketching, I'm gonna be on my high alert.
Like, really drawing. But I do use my sketchbook, but it's all for my own, like, you know, sketches. It's not something that I translate to my paintings because the process is really very intuitive. Yeah. It's not to say I don't have a background with like color theory and all of that. That really helps me do the work that I do, but I really just try to help it be more intuitive. So I'm not forcing. I think can be really, because I work with students too, adult painters, and you know, when you try to force something, it doesn't work. But when you just allow it, it starts to work for you. So. Right.
Yeah. And in my personal experience, when you do try to force something, you end up frustrated and, you know, potentially abandon it, or it gets worse. So then you know, it's a bit of a snowball effect. So I definitely understand that. So you touched a little bit on color. I do want to talk to you about color now. Maybe you've sort of already answered this just in the fact that it's so intuitive, but you have really unique color combinations. I mean, I think I've seen you use every color, some colors I've never even seen anywhere before. So I guess it's intuitive, but you're also, I mean, did you say you have a background in color theory? I mean, you've got an MFA and everything. So is color as intuitive as everything else for you? Or, I mean, you know, I think the color combinations you have behind you are, again, unique, but aesthetically very pleasing. So if that's intuitive, then that's amazing. But I wanted you to talk a little bit more about how you reach that place.
I'll come in after I do my like meditation session, and then I'll come in with my coffee or whatever, my water, and I'll just sit and I'll look at a piece that I'm about to work on. And I'll just like look, I just take a lot of time. You know, sometimes I jump right in. I'll be like, this is what's going to happen. Other times I'll sit with it and I'll be like, well, what color is calling to me? And that's how I'll start. So it's a little slower, but then as I start going, what happens is I just start mixing. I just start mixing all of my colors and they just kind of come out. So I generally use one bowl. Like I use a lot of recycling material, so I reuse them because,
nice.
You know, because plastic, just trying to get away from it, but everything's made with it. So I try to reuse it so it has another life in my studio. Mm-hmm. And I'll start with one bowl and I'll just start mixing the colors. And so I could start with like, let's say a red, and at the end of the day, it could be a yellow in the bowl because of all of the mixing and the color shifting.
Right. Okay. So you're always working off of a single bowl. You're not separating them. You're not separating them.
If I'm working on like, let's say like 5 different pieces and they're totally different palettes, I may do a different like bowl for that one, or a different, you know, container.
Right.
But I generally tend to do work that way. So then there's some version of the color that I was using before in the mixture.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. So, sorry,
Oh, no worries.
I already asked you one of my questions that I was just looking at, so I don't want to go back to that. So do you ever hit, you know, it's funny too, you've talked about how you, clear your mind before you come to the studio, which I think is so, do you meditate every day?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
So then I really am wondering now, I mean, I would have thought every artist would come across a creative block at some point, but I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about kind of hitting creative walls if you are actively clearing your mind before you come into the studio. And maybe that was something that helped you along the way, but I'd like to hear more about, you know, do you hit creative blocks? And if you do, what do you do to alleviate that?
You know, I used to, I used to struggle with that. And then I started meditating. So over the last like 7 years, meditation has been like my jam. I do it every day.
Yeah.
And I don't really experience that same, I don't really experience it the way it used to happen. Now I realize like I might just need to take a few minutes to myself to like, you know, maybe clean my studio a little bit because it's something I don't like doing. Right. But I realize like, you know, it does happen. It can happen but I've learned these tricks and tools to help me kind of like work through those feelings. It's all different feeling based. Obviously, if your energy is low, you might not be feeling super, you know, energetic and creative, but there's ways to work through it. And meditation has been my way to really like get through that, those experiences, which I'm very fortunate. I don't experience as much as I used to, or really at all.
Right. Okay. That's great. Is there something, you alluded to this already, that you don't like cleaning your studio, but is there a particular thing that you find challenging as an artist, whether that be cleaning your studio or something more sort of broad and conceptual? Is there?
Well, sometimes it's the work-life balance can be challenging, but for me, like honestly, it's going to sound so funny as an artist. What's really challenging for me is to wash my brushes. It's just something that it's sort of like, you know, some people don't like to like do laundry. It's like my version of that, you know?
Yeah.
If I could like have an android come in and just like wash my brushes for me, or have like a brush robot or something, I would be living large, because honestly, it's something I just can't get my mind around. Like obviously I have to wash them to keep my colors clean, but it's something I just dread doing.
Yeah. Fair enough. So when do you do your best work, do you think? Time of day or where, I guess? I mean, obviously you have a studio, but maybe the cafe is where you actually do your best work.
No. Years ago, it used to be at night. And then I am now a pure morning person, just because the way my life is chaotic and all. So I'm a morning painter. So I think my best work probably happens between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. In the last few hours of the day when I'm in here, I think it's more reflective time to like really, you know, to see, and that's when I start to slow down around 1. And then it gets to, I'm really just taking a step back. Right.
I want to circle back really quickly before we move on, because this is sort of really intriguing to me, that we were talking about how you've got a really intuitive process, and you've got sharp, straight, precision throughout your work, precise lines. What do you think that has any meaning? I mean, for you as someone who's using this potentially as an outlet maybe, or, I mean, or is it just, no, that's just how it is. There's nothing more to it. I really am interested in hearing what your take is on this sort of opposing thing, but something that ends up being so
Well, you know, it's
different?
so funny because when I shifted styles, that felt very organic. The forms were more organic, and they developed more. And then when I switched styles, it just felt right for me. You know, I have a family. From a family of architects, so
Okay.
maybe in some ways they have let them channeling through them all of the
Yeah.
work in the buildings they work on and
Yeah.
their design. So it does have that feeling, very architectural, and I think it's just like
Yeah.
somehow comes through in my work.
Right. And so I was sitting here thinking, is this two sides of your personality that you're able to express literally simultaneously, but a family of architects would probably have a little bit of influence. So that's a really cool little fun fact. Um, so what advice, if any, would you give to your younger self? And obviously it's really interesting because you made such a dramatic shift to your younger artist from your younger artist self just in style and it sounds like also in method. But if you could give advice to your younger self, whether it was just your younger self doing this type of artwork or your previous life as an expressive figurative artist, who would that be?
If
Or
I
what would that be?
Yeah, if I could give that advice to myself, just keep being yourself. I think in the early years when you're creating, you're sort of like, what do I do? And you try a bunch of different things, which you should. And you can get like, I guess at the beginning of my career, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know. Should I do this? Should I do that? And you're kind of like all over the place. And I realized like, if you just are true to who you are, you'll create the best work.
Right.
You know? And I think just keep being yourself would be my advice to myself.
Yeah. Yeah. You said that you teach adults art.
Mm-hmm.
Are you teaching them abstract art, or are you sort of venturing back into figurative, or what are you doing with them?
I do. Sometimes it depends on, because I work individually with people. Sometimes they want to work on their figurative work. They love like the Bay Area figurative work. And sometimes it's abstract. Sometimes it's color theory. It's sort of all over the place. I teach once a year, I teach an intuitive painting class, which is really like sharing my process, but more in having people pull out what's already out inside of them out. So
Very cool.
yeah.
Awesome. Now this sort of just occurred to me, and I guess it's funny asking now, but for the last last year and a half when we've been doing these interviews, I've always asked, has COVID impacted your work as an artist or your process or anything? I don't know that necessarily now, but at any time in the last year and a half, did you find that you were impacted, whether it was positive or negative?
Well, I have a wonderful and crazy family, so it did affect when I was in the studio. Like I had to shift my times to not be in the morning. It had to be in the evening, which before children, I was an evening painter, but I realized I'm more of a morning painter.
Okay.
So, that work-life balance again, I think has been challenging, but in terms of creativity, nothing has really shifted for me.
Right.
Just like maybe scheduling has shifted.
Right. So it's just logisticals.
Yeah.
The logistical details. And did it change anything in your teaching? Did you have to learn how to teach art online or anything?
No, I was already doing that, so it didn't change that for me. But it did, right when everything happened, when everything kind of shut down, I was actually teaching an intuitive painting class. And I was like, wow, this is such a hard class to teach with all these emotions happening. But it actually was really therapeutic for me because of everything that was happening. So it really just had me check in with myself a little bit more because everything sort of shut down. My solo show was up for like 2 days that I was having at the time. And so, I know it's fine. Looking back at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, I worked like months on these. But
hindsight's 2020. Yeah. So what is your overall goal as an artist, if you have one?
Oh, well, my current goal is to finish writing the book I'm working on. And, it's about the creative process. And I guess that's my current goal, is to just finish writing it. And as a creative, it's just to keep following this crazy windy path as a painter.
Yeah. And is your book something that, have you been working on it a long time, or is it sort of new?
I've been working on it for the last year, so I'm almost done with the first draft. So that's a major accomplishment.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And so for me as a creative, just being able to share all the knowledge I have feels like a really great thing to do. Right.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, we're going to pivot a little bit to something non-art related. Okay. I think I already know the answer to this first one. Coffee or tea?
Coffee. Definitely coffee.
You mentioned your coffee. Gotta have coffee in the studio upon entering the studio. Favorite time of day, and that doesn't have to be for working or anything, just favorite time of day overall.
The morning before my crazy family gets up.
Okay. That one moment of solitude.
Yes, but the house is super quiet. I can just like take a few minutes. It's always a special time.
Yeah. Warm weather or cold weather?
Right now, I'd say warm weather. But in the winter, when I'm out in the snow, maybe cold weather.
Okay, you're originally from Massachusetts. Well, okay, so you're originally from Massachusetts, but you did live in California for a bit. I guess the Bay Area is not super warm. Is that correct?
It's not that warm. It's warmer than here.
Right.
But I guess wherever you live, you get used to the weather. So when it was cold there, I thought it was freezing, and I looked like it was snowing here. So you just get used to where you live.
Yeah. Favorite place on earth?
Anywhere with a beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
And lastly, what do you do in your free time?
Oh my gosh. Free time. I have no idea what that is. But free time, I guess, I work on my book is one thing. I'm really trying to just finish. Embracing Your Creative Magic is what it's titled. Cool. And other than that, I try new recipes every once in a while. And so I don't know, I'll decide because I'm not a fast cook. So those 15-minute meals, like Jamie Oliver has them, they take me like 2 hours. So I don't know. I'm like, so that's how efficient I am in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So every once in a while I'll want to like try something different, experiment.
So you're still being creative though, even what you're doing. That's a creative piece.
My picture does not look like whatever I make does not look like that dish. I don't know.
But that's so funny because you are someone who, like, even when we were talking about, like, do you work off of an image? You're always going out of your mind and your imagination, and it's always intuitive. So if you have to follow something, then it probably isn't, it's probably injecting a little bit of your own intuitive.
I know, it's like they ask for a teaspoon of this, I just like dash it, and I'm like, that looks like it.
Well, you're nothing if not consistent then, I guess. Okay, I love it. Thank you so much for talking. That's all of my questions for you today. I've loved talking to you. You've got an amazing body of work. I will say, just for anybody watching, that we have 5 or 6, I want to say 6 new original paintings by Shilo, and prints. If they're not already available online, they will be shortly. So go head over to our website, sorelgallery.com. Everything's linked in our bio, and you can check out more art, our entire collection of paintings and prints by abstract geometric artist Shilo. So thank you again, Shilo. This has been fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And have a great rest of your week and happy weekend.
Oh, you too. You as well.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.